Hi, welcome to the Property Show. I'm Jayashree Kurup. I'm editor MBTV. Today we're talking about digital land titles, why it's important to buy legal lots with legal titles. We have a very eminent panel with us today. We have Mr. Sudhir Krishna. He was the former Housing Secretary of the Government of India. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We've got Mr. A.K. Jain, the former Planning Commissioner of the DDA, one of the most respected names in urban planning. Thank you for joining us. There's Mohammad Aslam. He's President Capital Markets of Anarock. Thanks, Mohammad Aslam, for joining us. And Avikshit Mural. He's the partner real estate of Juriscorp. He will be our legal expert on the show. Thank you. And let's get to the basic thing. Many states are in various stages of completion of digitization of land records. Mr. Krishna, let's start with you. For an average consumer, what does this mean, digitization of land records?
Well, as of now, the position is that if you want to know the land title, then you have to go to the office concerned. It could be municipality or the panchayat office or land records office, or maybe in certain cases, development authorities like Noida or DDA. And depending on who is the owner or who was the last owner and from whom you have acquired the property rights, and then get the documentation, and it is in physical form. And now the thing is, the urban area, if I can talk about, I mean, rural areas have their own challenges, and some of the challenges are common to both. But urban area, the problem with the land values are much higher, and fragmentation is much more. There are smaller pieces of land are there in cities, and multiple owners are there, and the mutations are very high in urban areas relatively compared to rural areas, and so challenge becomes far more. So as a result, you want to have the land to property record for you, and it becomes difficult at times. And now the mutations to make the entry of the mutation in various records. You purchase a property through a sale deed, and the sale deed you think that is your right. It is not so, because the sale deed has to go to sub-registrars. From sub-registrar's office, it has to go to the land office, that is the Tehsil office or municipal office. In different states, there are different procedures. And then it goes to the land records office. They have also got the primary land records. In many cases, the land records are still with the Department of Land Records. There is a Department of Land Records, which has, and because villages have joined the cities, and therefore the land records have not come to the municipalities in many cases. They have remained with the village, like, and in land record, assistant director of land record, or whatever name he is called. So you really are not sure, if you search 6 such offices, the land records office, the municipal office, the panchayat office, the revenue department office, development authority, you might find more than one owner for the same piece of land, because the mutation will take time to reach different stages, and it may create so much of difficulty for in many ways. I would say the difficulty is on two sides. One is for the owner, that he feels he is the owner, but in case of when challenge comes, then he finds it very difficult to prove that he is the owner. Why? What challenge? For example, the property is acquired. Now he has to get compensation, but the records may be in somebody else's name. People are enjoying land for a long time by practice. Somebody's land, 2-3 generations, it has gone to one person but there are multiple in law. There are multiple owners. The person died with 4 successors. Out of 4, 3 never touched the land. Fourth person, he also died or left. So under 2-3 children, one person is enjoying the land. He thinks this is my right. But when it comes to payment of compensation, he is nowhere in the picture. All 4 into 3 or whatever, everybody has got right. So they have to give some, he has to approach that, please give me no objection that money may be paid to me. It's very painful. So that is as far as the individual is concerned. As far as project developer is concerned, problems are far more. You want to set up a project, you have to acquire land. If government is the acquiring authority, the position is different. Because Land Acquisition Act says that, the land acquisition is oblivious at the end of the day, it is oblivious of owner. If government for a public purpose wants to acquire certain piece of land, ownership is immaterial. Whosoever is maybe the owner, they will acquire the land. While disbursing the compensation under the Land Acquisition or the LARR Act, when they are disbursing the compensation, If there is a clear title, they will pay. Otherwise, they will hold on to further inquiry and so on and so forth. So that is government. Anyway, government has got the right to acquire the land, and they do that also. It has become a bit difficult for some other reasons of environmental issue and all that, as far as title part is concerned. But if you are a private person developing a private layout for housing project or a industrial estate in private sector on your own, you say that I want to buy land from owners, then you find so much difficulty. Who are you talking to? You cannot be talking to the person who is enjoying the land. You have to talk to the person who is owning the land. Of course, person enjoying also has got a right. You cannot evict a person who is enjoying the land. But that is not enough. Enough will come when you talk to the real owner. Now you do not know who is the real owner, because I told you that it is like chain of very complex system is there. So these things cannot be resolved and resolved until we have digitization, because the whole thing has become so complex and dynamic. Buying and selling of land has become very common and very frequent. If people need money, they sell the land. They earn money, they buy the land. That kind of how it goes. So sorry, how this I'm off the.
No, you are fine. Sir, please go on.
I'm fine. Okay. So therefore, this becomes a big challenge for both the owner as well as the developer. And we have to think that government will not be much in the picture. Slowly and slowly, it is the private sector which has to come forward in land-based developments. As things are, the government would like to withdraw and let the private sector develop all over the world. So I would say that it is high time. And for the while, I will say one more point, that if a person is enjoying the land and he want to raise money from the bank by pledging the land, then the question comes, are you the owner? He may be saying, I'm living here for 50 years. Look here, I have paid property taxes. No, that is not enough. You have got, because the banker may say that our record says somebody else is the owner. Whatever banker may go to DDA, or they may go to Noida authority, or they may go to sub-registrar's office, wherever they go. You are not the owner, somebody else is no, my uncle and whatever. No, that is not the issue. So you are not able to enjoy. The whole economic cycle gets into a logjam for want of a clear land title. It's a very, very serious challenge now. Since it has not been updated for long, it has become more complex. And of course, so the only way out is digitization, because now manually going into those updating the records has become very big challenge now in the given situation.
Absolutely.
And therefore digitization is the answer today. As of now, let me hear other panelists, then I'll come back again with more suggestions.
I'll go to Mr. A.K. Jain. Mr. Jain, Mr. Krishna told us what are the challenges of not having digitized land records. Could you address the challenges of digitizing the land records?
Certainly. Deepak, can you just show the first slide? Because I want to explain what has gone wrong.
Sure, I'll just put it.
Yeah. So basically, I'm not going into too much of details, but basically what I want to say that in 1947, about 5 million migrants came to Delhi, the refugees from erstwhile Pakistan, and they were very well resettled by the Ministry of Refugees, later converted to Ministry of Rehabilitation, and the urban local bodies, who didn't have any investments, who didn't have any capital, and the system of licensing was started for lands, for small shops, small shelter, etc. So license fee was to be paid, which was subsidized or very nominal for 1 year, and he would get the title of the property after 10 years. So this kind of system has been abandoned with the passage of time. Then another milestone has been 2011. In 2011, we had the Delhi Geospatial Data Infrastructure Act, and Delhi Land Infrastructure or Land Titling Agency was created, but very unfortunately, it has not done much, and this digitization of the land records, etc., is lagging behind. Now in 2020, after this COVID-19, Delhi lost about 200 million jobs, India and Delhi about 5 million jobs. Again, the same situation as we had in 1947. And the laborers, migrant laborers, etc., who didn't have any investment to make for buying the property, they were they were made to return their homes, and they were under a lot of problem for survival, getting food, etc., etc. So this is the kind of situation. So when we are talking about land titles, I think we have to consider very important aspect of land title, whether we are able to, by digitization, serve the poor people, the migrants, those have-nots. That is very important. Now, in 2018, the government of India has notified the land pooling policy of the DDA for Delhi, which will going to assemble and land pool about 60,000 hectares of the land in 5 subsidies. And again, there are a lot of contradictions between the Delhi Development Act, Land Acquisition Act, and various other acts like Property Title Act, etc. So this is another issue which has to be seen. This year also, the National Council for Applied Economic Research undertook a study of the land records and services all over India, and they found about Delhi that the record of rights is very poor. Spatial records in Delhi are very poor. Digitized cadastral maps, only 53% of the revenue villages have these kind of maps. Digital registration process is extremely poor, and quality of the land records is very poor, and there are contradictions between the DDA Act, Land Acquisition and Rehabilitation Resettlement Act 2013, and Land Pooling Policy. So these are some of the issues which we have to address. Now, as far as land property titling in Delhi is concerned, we have 11 systems. And these, if you see slide number 25, these are explained here. And the level of security varies from pavement or street dwellers and the street vendors. They have no security, but they have certain.
So why don't you talk about the people who hold the titles, and that the titles, if it's in multiple agencies, what does it take to digitize it? Why don't you talk instead of presenting slides, sir? Why don't you talk? Because you are such a wonderful speaker.
No, I'm going to come here, but basically what I want to say that there are a lot of systems, and when we are talking about the land titles and digitization, first we should focus upon the poor people, informal sector, and the daily wage earners who don't have any title of their properties, are at the mercy of the owners. And as is,
So we come to the distribution. Why don't we talk about the basic problem of who holds the title today? How can you assess who holds the title today?
the titles are of many kinds. For example, we have the informal tenants in unauthorized colonies. In unauthorized colonies, there is a pagdi system. There are tenants in the planned buildings or the properly lease system. And from lease system, after economic liberalization, the government has gone for freehold system. But again, there are certain problems regarding the title of the land in terms of certain mischievous elements are there who have 2 or 3 property titles, or sell one property to unsuspecting many people. So, but these are the issues which are being tackled by the police or by other things. But as a planners, as a policymakers, we have to basically understand whether the system is working properly, and what will be the mess which we are creating by this land pooling policy. Because land pooling policy says that 40% of the land will be returned to the will be retained by the government, 60% will be returned to the owners, and the owners are basically on power of attorney. They are not real owners, not real farmers, and whether how they will be subletting or are disposing of that land, what will be the title.
Jan, if the land pooling policy, let's take the places, the sectors where land has been pooled. Some of the land belong to farmers. Some of the land has been picked up by those people who have invested in that land. When you digitize, when you formalize, land pooling is formalizing the titles. They are pooling it. Will that lead to digitization? Is that one way forward?
It has to be done on digital platform.
Yeah.
The difficulty now is that the pooling of the land, no one knows who are the catalysts, who are the purchasers, and who are the sellers. And this is going to create a lot of court cases, lot of trouble. So basically, before we embark upon land pooling policy, the title of the land has to be very clear. And if it does not belong to the person who is...
So is there effort on to assess the title of the land?
Effort, no, there is nothing very concrete which is happening. And for this, we have to energize the Delhi Geospatial Infrastructure Agency, which has been created by an act of the by the government of Delhi, and this has not been functioning the way it should function. So this is
okay, sir. I'll come back to you, sir. Let me go to Avikshit. Avikshit, Mr. Jain is right when he says that actually the policy, the land, there is freehold, there's leasehold, it's in different people's name. There, like Mr. Krishna suggested, that there are multiple holders. Some of them are, they are minors. So when they become adults, they can challenge it. So help us understand how this digitization process works and what stage are we at in different places.
Sure, Jashi. So what I'll do is, given the kind of context that you've set for this discussion, I just thought I'll quickly spend a minute on giving the basics to the people so that they understand why I'm speaking of certain things.
Sure.
Now, generally, when you talk of buying land, there is a word that people will hear a lot, which says that I have a clear and marketable title, which effectively means that I am the absolute owner of the land. Now, if a layman has to come and ask me today as a lawyer that, sir, who is this authority who is giving that clear and marketable title in India? Unfortunately, there is no concept, or rather there is no authority who gives you title in India. Okay. So title in India for land is a bundle of rights. So we'll have to understand it is not constituted in one particular thing. It's a bundle of different things which when put together will give me title.
Yeah.
Now I'm just picking up for whatever Mr. Jain said, and just to make it much more simpler for people to understand. When I am looking at a digital world as far as land accord is concerned, and if I'm a home buyer or a land buyer, what are the things that I have to see? So the two basic elements that you have to see. One is the government record of that particular plot. Generally, plots are given different number. It's called Khasra number in north. It's called Gut number in west. Then there are different numbers in south also. So you need some particular basic data. For instance, the number of the plot. You need to know the village where the plot is located, the district, and some additional information. Once you have that information, you will go to the government website. So I'm using Maharashtra since I'm based out of here. For instance, in Maharashtra, you will use the IGR website. Yeah. IGR website, what you do is go to land records. There you put in this data. You will get something which is called as a property register card. Okay. Yeah. The property register card is known as different documents in different places. That actually shows, according to government data today, who owns the land or who is the holder of the land. So that's a piece of the title that I have. Okay, that's not absolute, please be mindful. Now the second part is, once I establish, for instance, I'm buying a plot of land from Jayashree. Jayashree tells me plot number 73 is mine. I go, I check, it shows plot number 73 stands in Jayashree's name. Okay, so that's the first part done. Now what do I do? The second process is something called as doing a search. This is a search in the office of the sub-registrar of assurances. This office generally is the record keeper of all documents that has been registered. Now we have to understand immovable property. If you need the title to transfer, you need the document to be registered. So I will go to that same plot number 73, which I want to buy from Jayashree. I will do a search. Even this can be done online now in 7 or 8 states right now, as far as my knowledge is concerned, where you put in the same details, you take a search, it will show you a search of the last 30 years.
Yeah.
What are the documents that has been executed? So I will see multiple documents. So I will see Jayashree's sale deed, which was executed say in 2015, and she bought it from Mr. A. Then I will see Mr. A's sale date, which was executed by him in 2000 when he bought it. So that gives me a chain, okay? So in that chain, suppose I see a document which says agreement to sell, which Jayashree had entered in 2018. So what I do is I come back to Jayashree saying, Jayashree, there is one document which is appearing where you had actually agreed to sell this plot to someone else. So then Jayashree will explain to me the entire process, what had happened, money was taken, you refunded the money and all. So that's the second way in which you establish a title. Now the third way is your municipal records. This is not again absolute, but I will check for the property tax documents. I will check your other revenue documents, and I'll see whether Jayashree's name is appearing there or not, whether the electricity bill is appearing in Jayashree's name, the water bill. So this also is available today on. So when I take all these parts, the first part, the second part, and the third part, put it together, then the bundle of right is somewhat complete. And then I can come to a conclusion, yes, it appears that Jayashree has a marketable title.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for a home buyer or a land buyer, it is very important to know there is no one agency today in India which will certify saying that, yes, this is it, Jayashree is the title holder as per our record. There is nothing like that. If you go to places like Singapore and all, they have a system where the government indemnifies a person saying that as per our record, Jayashree is the owner. If something happens to you, loss happens to you, I will indemnify you. In India, we don't have that process. So as a land buyer, we have to be aware that you have to see and understand the title from different perspectives.
Okay. I'll come back to you. We'll take the conversation forward. I'll come to Aslam. Aslam, when developers buy land, typically we find that they get into joint development agreements, or they go to land aggregators and so on, because land is a very tricky subject, as Avikshit mentioned, in India, right? Help us understand what is the process that is happening there.
I think, Jayashree, what Avikshit just explained us is the right way of ascertaining the title of the land. But yes, definitely, given I go back to what Mr. Sudhir was explaining us the entire thing, actually that's the problem which is happening here. So what happened, Jayashree, if at all we can go the way Singapore has done. So whatever we are seeing as a progress in real estate, we have been seeing because of all this lack of digitization in land records. There's a lot of litigations are there. There are a lot of cost involved to clear those litigations. There are a lot of time goes to complete a constructed project. I'm just giving you a background, then I'll come back to your question. So this will all is showing real estate as a sluggish industry. Although still real estate is the one who's contributing to the 2%, or after agriculture, the maximum contributor to the GDP of the country. So I'm saying when this things can be resolved by getting into some kind of system, definitely we'll see a lot of progress and a lot of development, employment generation, everything will be seen at a very, very large scale.
Sure. Leave the generalities. Let's go to the specific question that I asked.
So once when a developer comes for a JV, in this thing, then yes, definitely they have to go. I was giving this background because he has to go through all this thing now again. So let's say I am a landowner and I go to a developer. Okay, I have a land and I want you to do a JV with me. That's a very good option for any developer, that you need not buy a land and you are getting into a partnership to it. So for that, developer gives some kind of token, some kind of deposit to him, and some ratio has been agreed. But then again, the question comes whereby you have to go into the entire process of finding whether this guy who has come to me for a JV has a proper title of the land. So then the entire process was just Avikshit explained us, it has to go through. If we are talking about Maharashtra, he actually nailed it by saying that all the process what has gone through. You have to be certain about the exact title of the property, because today, again, I'm telling you like what happened. It's a generalized thing. It is pertaining to your question. Most of the people, most of the developers, The second generation is not ready to get into a development business because they don't want to go and sit outside a PMC or a BMC and sitting out of a clerk and want to clear your land title. This guy has studied in London, US, and he has come back to join his dad's business. But again, he has to go to Mantralaya or he has to go to this municipal corporation and sit out of and explaining a clerk. And clerk, though he knows that it can be done very easily, that the proper process which he can follow, but definitely he will not do it. He will make him sit for 2
So
hours.
where are we in the Maharashtra digitization process?
So we have actually have progressed so far and we are doing good. But as we were discussing just before the start of this program, earlier the earlier government have started some centers whereby you go there, you have to tell your gut number and you start getting your property card. But Aviksha just explaining you, this called Satbara in normal language. So you have the entire flow of land in that or title in that Satbara. You have your name if you are a person. That's your first document which you can show to the developer for a JV or JD. But now this recently the order came whereby they have nullified that process and they said that center can be a guiding force, but ultimately you have to go to a Talati office. Talati office is a level where you have to go and get the Satbara from there. Until unless they prove it, you are not there. So again, we are back to zero. So we have made some progress, but we are back to where were we 2-3 years back.
Okay. Now, Mr. Krishna, clearly, just putting these land titles onto a digital platform is not as simple as it sounds. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Krishna, when we talked to the land the office in Bangalore, they told us that it was easier to start with the rural areas first and the urban areas were very messy. Help us understand the process of where does this, we don't seem to have moved very far in many states, and at a national level, land registry and land documentation is still a very slow process. Help us understand what are the challenges here.
Yeah. Actually, the challenge is because of the numbers and ownerships are running into few acres or maybe in rare cases few hundred acres, but generally few acres to few cents. I mean, 1/100th of an acre is a cent, let us say.
Yeah.
So from few cents, a person may be owning a few cents, 1 or 2 or 3 cents, and they are large in number, and these are millions and millions of transactions taking place over the years and updating the same. So legacy has become one challenge.
Yeah.
But solution has to be found out. We cannot allow things to drift. And it was a situation before when land revenue department was very important everywhere.
Right.
The land revenue used to constitute major revenue. And it so happened that this zamindari system brought one milestone, when the British started giving land to big landholders, zamindars, and they will take revenue from them. And therefore, the zamindar started parceling out land on whim and fancy, and that legacy has continued, and without any proper recording. But where the British administered directly, they had a good system of land revenue. But over time, the land revenue has been waived off. There is hardly any land revenue. So, where there is no money involved, the mind doesn't work. That is a human nature, Where money is not there, mind will not work, except in case of charity. Charity is driven by heart, not by mind. Mind works where money is there. That is human psychology, So much so in the government also, the government lost interest in land revenue just for whatever reason, they waived off. So today the land revenue is contributing almost zero, almost zero. Yeah. In most states. As a result, the government's motivation of sales tax, liquor, the excise duty on liquor and GST and so on, you are seeing so much reforms in GST. Why? Is it that it is just because a lot of money is there? Government have to survive, they have to do projects, developmental work, welfare of people with money only. So where money comes, that is psychology part. So that is one part. On the other side, the stamp duties are very high. So people are not indulging in fair transactions also, leading, so avoiding transacting properly. So because of the high stamp duty, we made from the Urban Development Ministry under the JNNURM, we put a condition that you have to reduce stamp duty to 5% or below. If you really want to partake money under the program, it made some effect. Otherwise, stamp duties were in 2 digits before, and it came down. If you recall, it came down in most cases to the range of 5%. And of course, then some states said, okay, if the transaction is in the name of female, then it will 4%, male 6%, and joint 5%. Some permutation combination they did. Then they put some surcharge on that, cess on that, just to bypass that. But we proved that from our ministry. We did some study and we proved to the states, if you reduce stamp duty, your money does not come down because more transactions take place. People are becoming more forthcoming to undertake legal transaction, and your revenue remains stable, if not increases, if buoyancy becomes more. So that it is. So if the stamp duties are reduced further, more legal transactions will take place, and this will help. There's no single short solution that you switch a button or launch a program and digitization will happen. It won't happen like that. Why? Because as I said, that the complexities are both in terms of maps and in terms of rights. Maps and rights don't always go hand in hand. But then we have to tackle large problem into smaller problems and tackle one by one in a way the jigsaw puzzle. You set the jigsaw puzzle, but each puzzle has its value. You cannot ignore that. So, for example, we have got the Bhuvan map of ISRO. The ISRO, through their agencies like Indian Institute of Remote Sensing or National Remote Sensing Center, the IIRS in Dehradun, NRSC is in Hyderabad, and we have got NESCAP, Northeast Space Application Center in near Shillong. And they have got the maps, Bhuvan map like Google Map, which are available free of cost at a good resolution. But then I'm saying that 1 cent of land they will not capture. These maps will not capture that high, the fine resolution and so on, because it requires cadastral mapping, and that's all right. But you do require, rather than doing manual mapping of entire land, you take the satellite imagery to the extent of resolving some of the issues, fixing boundaries and settling some key features of the, just you require some reference points that you set, major land parcels, the undulations of land, the natural features, all those things will come. They are part of, and thereafter, you have to match that with on-ground surveys. Now, for on-ground surveys also, digitization has to be helped with, accompanied with the modern technology of ICT. You have got now sensors you fit on the car in an automobile and go around, and it will do the mapping for you. Not like chain and staff method in olden time. You take a chain and a staff, and then 2 people or 4 people they map, and then you have got some survey other equipments. Things are much better now with these digitization systems are much better. And then you have to go to the record as to who is actual owner and so on. So it's a massive program required. We have got the national there's a Digital India Land Records modernization program, DIL, earlier National Land Records Modernization Program. Now it has, digitization has been given leading position there, driver's position, by adding it as the first word or first part in the program. So the funds are there, but it requires, because the land is a state subject primarily, except for Delhi, of course, and union territories, and Delhi, the land is a union subject, all right. But otherwise, land is a state subject. States have to do that, but land records are maintained in cities by the municipalities. Now look at the state of municipalities, their laws, what is their ownership. They are so much worried that property tax, if it comes, good enough. So anybody comes, I have seen people paying tax for somebody else. You can go and pay tax for somebody else also in many municipalities. And then you can claim receipt in your name. And the municipality is generally, psychology is, I'm starved of funds, I'm getting some money. So the government at all levels have to integrate their thought process that this is a legal matter also, not merely a money matter. Money does drive the intentions to work hard, no doubt. Money is the driving force for all enterprises. So much so for the government also. If money comes, they do take care. As I said, that many things are there. GST gets attention because of the volume involved. And then in the fallout is that transactions are accounted for. Economy is dependent on system working well. the transaction, this is economy. See, any system works well, help the economy, as simple as that. Like body works well in body organs, different organs work well, then body is strong. So much so. So therefore, on one hand, the land revenue must be, given importance as a revenue resource. It is not difficult. People are willing. They are in buying and selling land. People are paying a whole lot of money, and they do not mind paying, for ownership. They give some benefit to them also. Like we are saying that if you have property record in your name, you get this benefit, that benefit, cylinder, gas cylinder, or whatever. Link with that also, and don't make it thousands of rupees something. A few hundred rupees per year kind of property. It will add up to crores of rupees for each state and make a substantial, and you will fund for the whole digitization program also. After all, the program has to generate resource for sustaining itself. So digitization program can sustain itself if land revenue. Today it is coming as a government of India grant to state government, in turn to say district, in turn to village, and so on, becomes too complex a chain to administer effectively. So if the owner of the land records, the custodian of land record, if they generate resource and they get motivation that if I generate more resource, I should, then they will like to keep the records in a better condition to generate more resource. That is one part.
Yeah.
And look at the disputes also. Land disputes are the single largest source of dispute in the country. Single largest. How many families are divided? Society gets in tension. Families get disturbed because of the lack of title, etc. So it's a social issue also, not merely monetary issue, not merely governance issue. It's a social issue also. So that also has to be taken good care, by that. So I would say that. And one more thing I would say, that guaranteeing land title was discussed much. Even the government of India also made a lot of effort of encouraging states and making a model land title, guaranteed land title law, and encourage the states to launch. And I understand Rajasthan launched enacted also. The first state to make the land title guarantee was the state of Rajasthan, which what they call is Rajasthan Urban Land Certification of Titles Act 2016. I say very well, and the concept is what was ideal. Ideal is that the land title authority will give you a certificate. This is the certificate, take it, and it is my guarantee. Now, what does guarantee mean? That in case the person's title is disputed and he suffers on account of faulty title certificate, he will be compensated by the state. It's a very big thing. It's a very big thing. Of course, the amount of compensation is another matter, can be discussed, and but the concept itself was laudable. But I understand.
And the fact that we don't have insurance, even title insurance is not there in our country.
Exactly.
Moving towards digitization and title compensation or insurance, right?
Yeah, that's. Go ahead.
When we
Please.
talk about Delhi, there have been so many unauthorized colonies that have been authorized. When colonies are authorized, are land titles handed over to the owners?
Can I?
Yes, sir. I'm asking you.
In fact, it is not automatic. For this, the government of India has notified the National Capital Territory of Delhi recognition of property rights in unauthorized colonies 2019. This was gazetted in last year for giving them property titles. But the difficulty comes, there are, as you have said, more than 1,700 colonies which qualify for regularization. But the difficulty comes at three levels, practical difficulty. One is there is always non-clarity about the boundaries, revenue boundaries, about the Lal Dora, Abadi area, and the municipal boundaries. They are always at conflict. So the one thing which we have to resolve very clearly is the contradiction or conflict between these boundaries of the villages. And when the unauthorized colonies, most of the unauthorized colonies are existing in the rural areas, some are in the urban areas, but how these will be regularized and whether change of land use will be affected, this has to be seen. And when they are talking about the rights of the residents of the unauthorized colonies for property, whether the property land use will be residential or non-residential, this has to be cleared. One practical difficulty which we have been facing in the DDA regarding the digitization is the scale of the maps. The scale of the maps which are prepared by the revenue officers, Patwari, Tahsildar, etc., is 1 inch is equal to 330 feet, which converts to 1:4,000. Now, digital maps are generally what we find 1:20,000, 1:10,000, and these have some kind of contradiction with the scale, because Survey of India scale of the maps is quite different from the satellite imagery or the Google Maps, and whether these can be converted and overlapped on the revenue maps in the scale of 1:4,000, or maybe 4 times that will be 1:2,000, like this. This has to be resolved. Then what we have been doing in practical terms, we are adopting a kind of hybrid system. It is not only the satellite imagery or the aerial surveys or the Survey of India or the field surveys, total station surveys, which can provide the information, but there has to be some kind of innovative system. For example, Krishna Sahab has just told about this reconnaissance survey from a car. This is one thing. Then there can be drone surveys which are quite practical nowadays. All these kind of things have to be combined and put together, and we have to achieve the scale which can be overlapped on the revenue maps. So this is the second difficulty. The third difficulty comes about the Property Act of 1881 and the Registration Act of 1908. And of course, all these Development Authority Acts and Land Revenue Acts came much later. And there is no provision of digitization and smart mapping, etc. So these kind of old acts have a lot of loopholes which are generally exploited by the property mafia, and they get the marking of this the boundaries of the revenue village, etc., adjusted according to their profit motive. So this is something which we have to look into. This involves the perhaps review of the acts or updation of the acts. Second is the marking of the boundaries on the site. For example, Delhi is talking about the ridge, which is a sacrosanct area where no building, no farmhouses are allowed. But many times it is observed that because of certain legal loophole, the owners go to the courts, and courts give some kind of relief, and they get all this kind of construction regularized. So this is another thing which we have to consider. And of course, the Revenue Act of 1963, it has to be more clear. It has to talk about the property titling system, which can be digital, and all these things can be possible. But unfortunately, what I have told, we have been talking about this digitization since last 20 years. Bhuvan, then Delhi Geospatial Infrastructure Agency, all these things have not worked. And why they have not worked? Finance is a common excuse, but I think because they don't have that orientation of property titling, and they think in their own terms, and the property titling is done by the registration of or registrar's office, which does not consider all these kind of complexities which should be taken into account.
Right, sir. That's very useful. And now, from the generalities, I'm going to go to the specifics. The questions that we are getting on our show are very specific from consumers. And here, Avikshit, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to pick up 2-3 questions, and you can answer them together if you wish. One is what Amit is asking: what will happen to properties in dispute? How will their titles be digitized if there is a disputed property? The second one is, I've got somebody called Ravi asking, can a Lal Dora property be converted into a legal one in Delhi? There was another question by Abhishek who says, what will happen in case the wrong name gets registered in digital land titles? Will those be corrected? Abhishek, we are talking about specific queries that end users are asking, and we'd like to get those addressed.
Okay, so I'll take up the first one, which speaks about what happens when there is a dispute on the property.
Yeah.
So as long as the dispute continues, the name that remains in the property card prior to the dispute starting will be there. There won't be any change there. Once the dispute has received a finality and there is a final order of a competent court, then depending on the outcome of the proceedings, there may be alterations that may happen in the property register card also. So generally, a pendency of a dispute doesn't have a bearing on the property card or the government record. So that's something for us to understand.
Yeah.
On the second one, I am not very sure with the terminologies that is used because it
We'll
pertains
take
to
it to
Delhi.
Mr. Jain. You continue, give me the next one. We'll get Mr. Jain to answer that.
Okay. And on the third one, where the gentleman was asking if there is an error in the records that were updated, in the digital records that were updated. So we have to understand where is this error coming from. One is it on account of the original records that were there with the government, that being erroneous, because of which this error has crept in? If that is the case, then you have to actually go back to the Talati only, because the updation that is happening right now is either at the Tehsil office or the Talati office, where you have to make an application for correction of the records. Of course, you will have to give your supporting title documents on the basis of which you are claiming the errors to be changed. At times, it also happens like the land is in the father's name, for instance. The father may have expired and you may have made an application. The application never got worked upon and the father's name still appears today, even after 10 years after his death. So, at that time you give the simple certificate of his death and once again make an application so that the record gets updated. But what we have to understand is this application doesn't go to NIC's office, who's doing the back-end work. It will actually go to the government office, the concerned revenue officer who will be doing the updation.
Yeah. So which means that suppose I'm in Bangalore or in Chennai or in Hyderabad, I go to my local office and I submit that I go to the portal, check out that the digitized record is in my father's name or somebody else's name, and I can go and make these corrections, get these corrections done with proof that it has to be done.
That's correct. And yes, that's correct. And then it becomes the duty of the department to ensure that the digital record is updated at their back.
And for the updation of the digital record, whom do you follow up with?
So that's an interdepartmental process. That's not your obligation. That is for the government to.
Okay. So which means that once you've done it at your local office, the records are more or less corrected. And if it's not showing in the digital portal, you have to go back to those offices itself.
Yes. So just to add a concluding comment, whether we like it or not, the records that the government of Maharashtra at least is providing on title, it itself puts a disclaimer at the bottom of the Satbara or the PR card saying not to be relied upon for legal purposes. So that's why you have to please understand that the digital record doesn't have value. You have to still ensure that it is the Tehsil or the Talati whose records are being updated, because that will eventually give value.
Oh. Okay, Aslam, I'm going to come to you. When a consumer, yes, sir.
What I was saying, it's very easy to say that the record can be got corrected. But generally what I find the officials who are in charge of the registration, the records, they don't want to take a risk because they are always afraid that there will be some CBI inquiry, vigilance inquiry. So they tell very frankly that your work cannot be done unless you get some orders from the court, so that we are at least not responsible for something which happens. And in my own family, something of this thing happened. The record, the names of the person in the record were not correct. And ultimately, after 5 years, we were told to bring the orders from the court, and the court took another 5 years. So it was 10 years, a lot of hassle. And ultimately, we decided that let us sell off the property. It is becoming a headache.
Yes. And these are the practical problems on the ground, right? What Mr. Jain is talking about is officials who are scared to change property titles on the records because you're not sure whether you will be implicated later, right?
So Jayashree, just need to understand one thing.
Huh?
I think the question emanates from an error.
Yeah.
And I think there is another thing, which is updation of records, which is on account of either a sale or a death or something other. So there, Mr. Jain has rightly mentioned that there is an error which will require the intervention of, a change in record. But if there is an error apparent on the face of it,
Yeah.
then those errors, the court will not intervene in such an error, saying that, look, I am not a correcting body here where I am passing orders. So there you have to follow.
There are two types of changes. One is in the inheritance. Through inheritance, the name has changed, which
Yes.
land records authorities will do. Where there is a title change which is disputed, that's where you have a problem and you have to go to court and get it done.
Yes, you'll have to get a declaratory suit of sorts being filed, and that's how you change.
Actually, Aslam, when people go and buy property in gated communities from developers, is it all clear? Is it safe? Can I still have to go and do my checks about those properties and the titles? You're on mute.
After hearing whatever the gentleman have just said, I think it's definitely why that you need to be doubly sure on that. But fortunately, in current scenario, I think government has done one good thing for the buyers or the laymen or the consumers, that RERA is being introduced now.
Correct.
A very, very good tool in the hand of a common buyer, that he can go to the RERA site and their entire thing is properly mentioned, like all your title, about your approvals, about the timelines when the property gets completed, each and everything is there. And with
This is for new projects, right?
yeah, for the new projects, yes, for the new project, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
And we are talking about gated communities is the new norm that's happening. But yes, there's another way of doing it. I'm just giving a solution to it. Digitization, definitely, it will help in future or currently if somebody goes by the proper manner or proper channels. But the other way of doing it, just for the consumer, I'm advising that people can, when they go for a home loan, so that's the bank's responsibility that they search the entire title for the old property as well as the new property. So I think the other way that they can ascertain about the title of the project.
Mr. Krishna, there is a query that I've got. What documents one should check before buying land? Considering what all of you have said, that there is records are maintained in multiple offices and everything, what are the main documents that one should check? Would you like to take that query?
Well, I think I will say something, but maybe other panelists may like to supplement.
Yes.
Because it is indeed a complex situation today, that when you buy that property, then one goes to the land record office or municipal office to verify whether there is any encumbrance on the land. That has to be checked. And I suppose one has to go to the municipal office or tehsil office, as the case may be. There are two verification. But normal common man cannot be running around. There are many people who are very busy in life, and they cannot be running around to 20 offices or 10 offices to identify before buying a piece of land. So I suppose one should buy from authorized agencies and big developers, proper developers, and so on, rather than going in for personal purchases here and there today. That's very risky. It's very risky because all said and done, the titles are very mired in a lot of uncertainties as to who is the real owner and who has got the title. The person who is enjoying the land, even be having all property tax receipts, it may not matter much, because he may be under power of attorney for all we know, or he may be having under some kind of agreement to live there or something like that. So it's a very complex thing. So I would suggest that one should, unless you know the person very closely, intimately, and even then one has to go at least to the sub-registrar's office and to the land records office and to the municipal office or panchayat office, as the case may be, to find out, but keep that risk element will remain always, because the titles are not guaranteed, and not all land records are presumptive unless prove otherwise. There is no guarantee there. That is how it goes. Even record of rights or khata or pani or everything, they put a caveat that it is not a guaranteed right, it is presumptive. So and so is shown as the owner. So you take the risk and proceed.
and the person who has given that certificate, like village accountant or talati or Shanbhog or whatever he is, or his department cannot be held accountable for not updating it from time to time and allowing the person to be in trouble. That doesn't work out, except in Rajasthan land title, that guarantee part is there. Rajasthan has shown the way. I believe Maharashtra has also attempted to do something like that, but it is a challenge still to be met. So I would say that until the things are resolved, I and many other panelists have given excellent suggestions. There may be many more suggestions which your viewers will have also to give, but these are all for the future. As of now, one has to be cautious, I would say, and buy property either from a very well-known individual or person or from a reputed developer, except of course government sales are there, that should be all right. That's how I would feel in this situation.
Absolutely. Avikshit, I think I'm going to keep coming back to you for because we need a legal perspective as well.
Yes.
I'll put one more query here. Uh, uh, one is which are the documents that you should check, and the other one is what are the key challenge. Do you need a lawyer to verify plot titles, or can you do it yourself?
So again, Jashi, I end up complicating things, but just to make things simple, your list of documents also depends on who the owner is.
Yeah.
Now, if I have to break that up, if it is an individual, your list of documents will be separate. If it is a company owning it, it will be separate. If it's a partnership, then it will be separate.
Yeah.
But on a generic basis, and just picking up for where Mr. Krishna left, one is, and the foremost part is, you have to check for the title documents. That is the document under which you acquired the right. So you have to ask for a Xerox copy and also do an inspection of the original. You have to see who is in possession of the original. That's one. Then you have to figure out from the land revenue office that particular land is in whose name. Now, given the present state, I would still suggest that you do the physical search and not rely too much on the e-search right now. That's second. The third thing is you will conduct a search in the sub-registrar's office to figure out that the document that you have claimed, whether that is reflecting or are there any other documents also which may prove to be a hindrance later on. Then post that, what you do is you check for all the supplementary documents like your property tax bills, your electricity bills which are there, and any other ancillary thing. One important thing which I suggest, and may appear like a little bit of extravagant expenses, but I suggest that it is always feasible to give a public notice when you're buying a land. It may cost you a little bit, 10,000-15,000, but I have seen when it comes to the court of law, the fact that you have issued a public notice to the world at large, your standing as a bona fide purchaser becomes much, much more stronger. So you're always in a stronger position. Tomorrow suddenly if someone pops up and says that, look, I had some random title, I'm the brother of the owner and something like that. You always have a stand to say that, look, I issued a public notice to the world at large. Nobody came back. After that, I went ahead with the deal. So it's in a way a protection.
Does that protect you from it, or it can still go?
It's not absolute. Yes, it's not absolute, but it's a good defense for you in a court. It's never absolute.
Jayashri, can I?
Sir, I want to also ask you one more question, and you can, of course, comment. There is a question that has come. Can a Lal Dora property be converted into legal? Now, is Lal Dora legal, and what kind of conversions is required to purchase into Lal Dora properties? And please, you wanted to comment.
Yeah, basically, Lal Dora was defined the residential or the Abadi area of the villages where the farmers used to live traditionally. And this Lal Dora has only one khasra number. So it is, when you buy a property in Lal Dora, it is always either on the power of attorney or it is kind of sublease. So this is one thing, but people are going ahead and buying without any reservation.
What are the risks, sir?
Yeah.
Risks in buying into a Lal Dora land?
Yeah.
What risk do you face?
Lal Dora, which is part of the Abadi, village Abadi area, people are buying and building also. Yeah. But according to the Municipal Corporation of Delhi, you can build 2-story or 2.5-story maximum, and that should be for bona fide residential use, not commercial. But this no one obeys, no one bothers about this thing. Regarding these documents which need to be checked for property ownership, lot of people used to come to me when I was part of the DDA, and some of my close relatives, close friends also. And I used to advise them that number one, check the chain of owners or the ownership document, which from the original owner. Secondly, property tax receipt. Third is if there is a power of attorney for the property or mortgage papers. Fourth is ration card, and fifth is voter cards. But I lost a lot of friends because they couldn't find these documents for any property, and they dropped the deal, and after 1 year or 2 years the property value went twice or 3 times, and they blamed me that because of your advice we have been put to loss. So this is something which we have to consider, because the whole purpose of the digitization was that the property registers should be available on website. One should not be forced to go to the different offices and check the ownership, etc. And if there is a Benami property ownership, it should be displayed on the website. But unfortunately, this has not happened. So this is again to be seen whether we have to digitize these things and put in public domain, so that property buyers and sellers have not to run from pillar to post for any ownership of the property. So this is something which we have to consider very carefully. But Laldora, legally, if someone asks me as part of the government, I will say that it is illegal to buy property, and it is further another illegality to build a property without municipal approval of the building plans. But everything is going on and everything is happening.
And in fact, that is the excuse, that everything has been going on for a long period of time. The entire lethargy happens because we are trying to correct a wrong, of a historical wrong. And today technology exists. And Aslam, today, how much, in this entire process of digitization, would you be able to estimate how much technology are the different states using, and how it's working, at least for the industry?
I think most of the state, I think what I have read recently, I think more than 23 states and 9 union territories have already has completed the digitization process, and actually is definitely working in favor of the entire industry. If we are talking about real estate industry, definitely yes. Because it gives the transparency actually to the entire industry, which historically perceived as something which is not very clear, and there are some dubious dealings are happening. But once this digitization happens and it's actually completed, so land, which is actually the main component of the entire real estate project, it's actually definitely helping the developers to complete their project faster. We have been talking, I think in your shows also previously, we have spoken about one window approval, which is only possible if we once have digitization or digital records in place for all the land that we have. So once if that part is taken care of, so definitely that one window approval will be a reality very soon. And definitely it will give in the progress, or it will help in real estate, which is actually a very, very the most important job creator for the common man. It will help to them.
Right. Actually, today we find that Telangana has the Dharani portal. Jamba Bandi is Haryana's. There is dlrc.delhigovernment.nic.in is the Delhi government's portal. Landrecords.karnataka.gov.in is the Karnataka portal. They have Bhumi and Dishank as the two services that they're offering. UP Bhulek is there. Bhulek.mahabhumi.gov is Maharashtra. So Tamil Nadu has its own Chitta portal. So states seem to be making a small effort. Like Mr. Krishna said, there's not much revenue in this entire process. Because there's no revenue collection, this doesn't seem to happen. But here, Avikshit, I want you to comment on the Niti Ayog's new draft, the land title law. Now, Mr. Krishna was advocating that we should have insurance or a promise of titles being clear, right? There is how will this Niti Ayog's proposed law benefit this?
So the digital records that we have right now is actually picking up the record that was written by hand and typing it in a laptop or computer and making it available to the world.
Sure.
That's digital as far as we understand. That data today doesn't have the backing or the support of a government saying that, look, I am putting this data, I am responsible for this data, and I protect you if you rely on this data. So that is what the Niti Ayog's title bill or titling bill is looking to do. It's a very, very brave step. It's a model bill that they had created.
Yeah.
What basically the gist is, if I can just give it to you in a minute, what
Yeah.
you're trying to say is that there will be an officer that will be created at different jurisdictions. These officers will actually comply with the process, which is a 3-year process, and the existing people, the existing owners' names will be entered into a digital register. There will be a 3 years cooling period within which there are different stages at which people can come and complain. If I have a dispute, I can come and put my dispute and record my dispute. If I have some other issues also, everything gets recorded. Eventually what happens is after the cooling period of 3 years gets over, there will be a record that is created which will be serving 2-3 purposes. And the good part is, one, it says that this record will be treated as evidence for the purpose of Indian Evidence Act. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Secondly, it also has a clause which says that notwithstanding whatever is stated in the Indian Registration Act or Transfer of Property Act, this record will be superior to whatever is stated there. So effectively, you are creating or proposing to create a law which will override all the previous dirt that is there. And for once in India, you have a zero. When you start from zero, you have a fresh record, which hopefully after the 3 years period will be seen as a clean and marketable title. So that's in effect what Niti Ayog has suggested. I'm really happy with it.
And after the Niti Ayog's proposal, now this has to be enacted as a law. Only then will, and then the states have to then
The
enact
states have to, yes.
right? Because
Yes.
land is a state subject.
So it's a model act, basically, Jayashree. So it will be just like a guiding force, and the state has to enact it basis their own amendments and whatever changes.
Right. So in digitization, to sum up, we have taken some baby steps. Existing records have taken them online. So if you as a consumer want to know whom the land belongs to, you can go and assess it on the site. But you do have to do physical verification. You do, Maharashtra, for instance, has said that digital records are not going to be upheld. Rajasthan has been a front runner. Rajasthan has said that we will actually, we are saying that these land records, we stand by our land records that we've digitized. Mr. Jain says that there is Delhi has a very, very long way to go. And today there is, everyone is doing it. So I'm also doing it, seems to be the norm. But digitization is the only way forward for India. And for many of you, the very fact that so many of you are logged in and asking these queries means that for the consumer on the ground, it matters. It matters that you don't have to run from pillar to post. It matters that there should be some kind of stamp of authority that what you're buying is indeed legally verified. Thank you so much for watching the Property Show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.